Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host, statistician to the stars, a man of 1,008 aliases. His name is Padawan J.
Oh, let me talk to you.
And boy, we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports. Like I said, you are tuned in to the sports edition of the ODPH, and we have a lot to go over, so we definitely want to keep those conversations rolling after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on to the blogs, to the classified section. Shout out to 3FN Podcast. Shout out to Dragon Master Games and Nerd Initiative and many, many more. You can find them all right there. Also, if you're looking on a different provider for the ODPH, wherever you're listening, you want to go, hey, I want to go try it out on somewhere else. Pad, how many providers are we on?
504,169.
And your source?
Trust me, bro.
So we have a directory that's lined up that'll take you everywhere you need to go if you want to find the ODPH on a different platform. That's what we do. It's all right there, so make sure you subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcatcher. It definitely helps the algorithm of the show. Last but certainly not least, along with the social media links in the TeePublic store, we have a fantastic music section where you can hear all the music you hear on the show right there at your own leisure. So you can definitely hear Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, shout out to Robots and Floodlands. And if it's anything else that I might have missed, because, hey, we talk a lot of parlay topics here, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And remember, if you're using hashtags on social media, why not use the hashtag ODPHpod? Kicking off the sports edition, I think there's only one clear-cut winner of what went down as the biggest sports story of the week.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL draft has come and gone.
Yeah.
A lot of headlines. One quote-unquote, and I'm using big air quotations, controversy going on with it. So we're going to recap, like we always do, the top 10 and then break down every other story going on, because I know, obviously, there is one that we have to cover. So
Yeah.
let's get into it.
So, of course, the Tennessee Titans had the number one overall draft pick, and they took the quarterback from Miami, Cam Ward.
No surprise here.
Nope.
Ward was the number one quarterback on the board.
Yep.
Tennessee, we knew, was debating about a few players that they were going to take at number one. They might have gone defense with Carter, could have gone with Travis Hunter, but they ultimately settled on Cam Ward, which I think is the best pick they can do.
Yeah.
Tennessee needs a lot of help, period.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't really matter per se about where they could have gone, but I think Ward is very solid. Is he going to be the franchise savior? I don't think so.
I mean, it's a good start.
But it's a good start to build in a new era because they obviously need it.
I mean, and then he clearly got the blessing of one of the franchise's all-time great players. And I'm dating this back to the Houston Oilers days. So he got drafted on Thursday. I believe it was Friday or Saturday. I can't remember which day. It all blended together.
It was Thursday.
No, I'm saying when he had the introduction with the team.
The introduction? Oh, that was Saturday.
So Saturday, the team introduced him and had him there for a press conference in Nashville. And they had a certain special visitor who wanted to come pay him a visit. And it was, I don't know, you might have heard of him, some dude named Warren Moon.
Yep.
Who they, from what I'm reading, although there's could be a weird workaround because of the way it was done, unretired Warren Moon's number one. And they gave Cam a Titans number one jersey, showing like, hey, he's going to wear the number one. So Moon did say, quote, "I just came here because I got a lot of respect for this young man right here. I wore the number one for a lot of different reasons and for a long time, starting back in 1976. Now I'm part of the Titans family, and my Oiler jersey will probably never be worn again. But the Tennessee Titans jersey is going to be worn by Cam to kind of revitalize it," close quote. So got a huge blessing from one of the all-time greats in the NFL and one of the franchise's all-time greats. Am I expecting them to make a deep run in the playoffs and possibly win a Super Bowl this year? No. Am I expecting a slightly better record they had than this past year of 3-14? Yes.
See, I'm kind of on the fence if they're going to actually be better, but this is the best move they could have done.
Absolutely.
I don't fault them.
Absolutely.
Just overall, there's a lot of holes in Tennessee right now they need to fill. This was a large one, and they got the best possible candidate they could.
Next up was a trade because originally this pick was held by the Cleveland Browns. They traded it with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who took the cornerback / wide receiver hybrid in Travis Hunter from Colorado.
So this one was a very wild scenario.
Yeah.
Because Jacksonville gave up they swapped number 1 picks this year, gave up their 36th and 126th pick and their first next year.
Yeah, Browns 3 spots for the trade. So Cleveland got the 5, a second round this year, and the 4th this year, and the 26th, as you alluded to. The Jaguars received the number 2 pick and number 4 pick this year, and a 6th round pick this year. So, oh baby,
it was a lot. But Travis Hunter, in my opinion, was the best player, pure player on the board. So seeing Jacksonville make the reach for him, I don't hate the move, but I'm also questioning it a little bit. Jacksonville has a lot of issues right now. Like, they're not ready for the playoffs. And obviously with a new head coach in there, this does make some sense in comparison to where he was.
Sure.
Because obviously, being the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay, you knew that they wanted to establish a dominant passing game in the Jaguar system. Making the move here, yeah, that could definitely help if Hunter buys in. However, the only thing that we needed to really keep an eye on is he wants to play both sides of the ball.
Sure.
Liam Cohen, who is the head coach of the team, that's going to be a decision he's going to have to make, and especially being the first head coach job he has, to my knowledge.
Right.
This is going to be a true challenge if he can do this with Brian Thomas and get something out of Trevor Lawrence. If they can do this, yeah, they have potential to. They remind me on paper right now of how Arizona was with Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Boldin. There is that potential there.
Yeah.
But is it going to be enough to win that division? Debatable. I mean, that's the
Flip of the coin, maybe?
Well, you have to think Houston's still there. Obviously, they're looking great.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So that all said, that AFC South is going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is every year.
Right. So that being said, this is going to be a risky pick. But if he pans out and he can do both sides, even though I would keep him as corner, to be honest with you, then they're going to need to focus on that and really see what they can draw out.
So this is Liam Cohen's first head coaching job anywhere. He does have some prior experience. I'm not going to run through the whole list. He had a number of positions in the college game. 2018 through 2019, he was the assistant wide receivers coach with the Rams. Then he was the assistant quarterbacks coach with that same team in 2020. Went to the University of Kentucky in 2021. He was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Came back to the Rams in 2022 as their offensive coordinator, playing hot potato here because he went back to Kentucky in 2023 where he was the OC and quarterbacks coach again. 2024, back into the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the offensive coordinator, and he is now the head coach with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this potentially could work. Now, am I expecting him to play every single down on offense and every single down on defense, much in the same way he did in Colorado? No. NFL speed, game speed, and college football game speed, two totally different animals. Doesn't necessarily work that way, especially when they're breaking down game film and they're looking at coverages and they're kind of figuring out, all right, well, here's what our plan was. We got to adjust it and go about it this way. I don't think it'll necessarily work, but I think it could work in certain instances, and you have him in for a couple plays, and then you pull him and whatever else. That's going to be something for them to figure out. Let's not forget, people thought it was nuts when the prospect of Shohei Ohtani was coming into the Major League Baseball, and he was going to both pitch and hit. I realize it's apples to oranges, and Ohtani's a generational talent, but I think the outlook is sort of the same, where people thought it was nuts. It had never been done, on a consistent basis every single day. And for Ohtani, it's worked out pretty well so far. For the Jaguars, it makes total sense. It's something they needed. Where they end up using it, whether it's going to be primarily defensive, primarily offense, I don't know. That's going to be something they have to figure out when they get into training camp and into some preseason games and adjust from there. I think he'll still play both sides of the ball, but just not every down like he did in college.
Well, that's going to be the big X factor here. And they can utilize him both ways, like I say. If they want to use him as a wide receiver, that could work. I think their defense could definitely use him more, in my opinion.
Lord, yeah.
Because he's going to have to find a way to split balls between him and Brian Thomas. If he can do that, sure, it can work. But with what we've seen out of Trevor Lawrence, I mean, this is a far cry from his college days.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a storyline to watch as we move forward, and especially with Hunter being very adamant he want to do both sides of the ball. He's going to have to choose one. Is he going to be happy doing that? Mm-hmm. And then how does that affect the team chemistry? That's the ultimate question.
Right. Well, and this could ultimately, I know he said, I want to do both sides of the ball, and if the team doesn't let me, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna walk away. I think it's going to be a case of that's what he thinks, but when it actually comes time for the actual games he can play, I think he might realize, okay, I can do both sides, but I can't do them the same way in the same amount I was doing
Right,
before.
but they'll have to see it when they come up. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
All right.
Next up, with the number 3 overall pick, the New York Giants took Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State.
Well, this one was probably a no-brainer,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Carter was the best defensive player, I think, on the draft boards. He could have gone number 1.
Yeah.
Could have gone number 2 to Cleveland, which I thought would have been a great fit for him.
Would have been phenomenal.
Landing at the Giants, though, that is probably the best destination they can.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world when you look at the rest of that division. Dallas has got Dak Prescott. Philly's got Jalen Hurts. Daniels is in Washington. So when you have 3 quarterbacks, especially Dak, maybe the worst out of those 3, but the other 2 are very incredibly mobile. Mm-hmm. You're going to need someone to get past that offensive line and try and get in the backfield and stop them. So will he do it? Yeah, maybe, but you need that edge rusher.
Well, that's one point they're going to have to make, and there's a lot of X factor they can do. Obviously, dealing with Philly and trying to copy their blueprint, that's going to be a big thing too.
Yeah.
But with Burns and Thibodeau, you have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Burns is going to be solid. Thibodeau, I'm still out on. I don't know exactly what you're going to ultimately get out of him per se, but you have to load up that backfield and see what you can do. And then or the defensive, the edge rushing. That's what you really need to do because, like I say, you can load up that as much as you want, but you have to really compare to keep, your team on the field as much as you can and get, like I say, get the defense out of there.
Yeah.
This is what makes sense. Albeit, though, there was one thing I heard and I was like, ugh, this is not a good start. Allegedly, on First Take this morning, they were talking about how Carter called one Lawrence Taylor and asked him if he could use 56.
See, I heard the 56 story, but I didn't know if it was he called or it was suggested. I didn't hear the kind of catalyst of this whole story.
Yeah. So apparently he called in and asked about it, and Lawrence Taylor politely said, no, you carve your own legacy. And that's exact, and I fully agree with it too. That is the move you make, but very not so bright in my opinion, because especially if you're going to make that kind of move, doing it in New York City, that is not the place you want to do that because that is generating a lot of headlines. So if he can back it up on the field, that'll be even the better case scenario for him because I think that's what he needs to focus on. But Giants made a very smart pick here.
Yeah, no, as a Penn State guy, they're getting a monster on that defensive side of the ball, and boy, he's going to do a lot of good things for that defense.
Yep.
Next up, with the number 4 overall pick, my New England Patriots took the LSU offensive tackle in Will Campbell, and I got to say, I love this pick. I love this pick from the moment he stepped on stage and told, I believe it was ESPN, when they asked, what are you looking to bring to the offensive line in New England? And he said, and I quote, I'm going to fight and die for that quarterback. And I'm like, that's fucking amazing. I love it. I also saw this statistic. I cannot take credit for this. So in Will Campbell's 3 seasons at LSU, he played 2,553 snaps. Guess how many sacks he gave up? 5.
Impressive.
He allowed 45 pressures, and he went 24 consecutive games without allowing a sack. It's a monster.
Oh, it definitely is, but this is no shock to me because this is Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, that's true.
If there's one thing Vrabel does extremely well is he builds an offensive line that makes ordinary running backs into superstars and superstars into legends.
This is true.
This is what he does. So I am not surprised at this. This is the right move to make because you have to give Drake May some time to show if he's the future or not. I mean, this is going to be something that Vrabel is going to have to deal with. I mean, with a very new quarterback in a system, trying to implement that and get a running game going because that is a staple of Vrabel as well. If he can pull all this off, the Patriots look like they can start getting back to prominence in the NFL.
Please.
But I think just the short-term best pick they could have made.
Absolutely.
Easily.
Next up, with the number 5 overall pick, the Cleveland Browns took Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan.
I am really a big fan of this one. I thought there was a couple ways they could have gone with this.
Okay.
They could have gone quarterback if they really felt a certain way.
Sure.
They didn't. But if you're going to compete in the team with a Baltimore Ravens offense that is really elite, a Pittsburgh offense that could be improved, and especially a Cincinnati offense that spent an exorbitant amount of money on their wide receivers,
This is true.
you have to get to Joe Burrow and give him some pressure.
This is true.
So adding Graham into the mix is very smart. And especially getting pressure on the quarterback, that's what they're going to need to do if they're going to find some relevancy this year. Is he the best one they could have grabbed? No, but I think for what they needed, they did very smartly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the rest of the quarterbacks. You mentioned Joe Burrow's in that division as well. You've got Lamar Jackson. Pittsburgh, right now, it's Mason Rudolph. We'll see who it is by the time the regular season starts. I don't think it's going to be Mason Rudolph. I got a hunch it's going to be one 4-time NFL MVP, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be over there just because, listen, Pittsburgh had however many attempts this past weekend to pick a quarterback, and I don't believe they did. So we'll see what happens. But with all the other quarterbacks you've got in that division, as smash mouth as it is, every single year, you need guys that are willing to go in the trenches and hit hard in that defense, and I think he can do that for that team.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is a smart move for them. I know his sack ratio is not that great.
Sure.
But this is the NFL. If he can just stop and cause some havoc, that's all he needs to do. I don't think he needs to be an elite sack machine, so to speak.
As long as you can get pressure.
Right.
Next up with the number 6 overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders took Ashton Genty, the running back from Boise State.
This is probably the safest pick of all.
This is like the most Pete Carroll pick I've ever seen.
Yeah, there was no shock here.
Do people forget who he had as a running back in Seattle for a number of years? Certain guy who was sponsored by Skittles?
Yeah. This was the most predictable move they could have done, but this is the one that makes a lot of sense for the Raiders. Pete Carroll, now being in charge, wants to run the ball like nobody else, like you alluded to. This will definitely help Geno Smith, and they just have to really see if he's the real deal or not. That's going to be the big question.
Right.
I think he'll be fine. I think for how they can utilize him, because Carroll knows what he's doing, I think he'll be very adequate to start, and I think he'll even get better as the season goes on.
Sure.
It just depends on how they want to use him, and that's the thing. Is there a lot that is going to be put on him to bail out Geno Smith and company?
Well, and if you look at kind of the Raiders' depth chart right now, okay, they got quarterback figured out with Geno Smith. They got Aiden O'Connell and all that other stuff. You look at their wide receivers; they're not bad. They're not great. They're not bad. But their running game severely under par with who they had there already. I mean, you have Raheem Mostert, who had him on fantasy last year. He was about as consistent as a first grader when you ask him what they want for lunch every day. 278 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Do I need to say any more? I don't think so. They've also got Sincere McCormick, who had 183 yards rushing and no touchdowns. And then they also have Zamir White, who had 183 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. So, listen, you add those numbers up together, it doesn't even come close to cracking what Ashton Genty did in college last year.
Yeah.
So, obviously, it's what they needed. As you said, and it's 100% true, Pete Carroll loves running the football, and boy, is he getting a dude to run the ball.
Yeah, this is a safe pick, but smart one, too.
Yeah. Next up, with the number 7 overall pick, the New York Jets took Armand Membu, the Missouri offensive tackle.
Well, this one is not a crazy pick, as some might think.
No.
With Aaron Glenn running that team now, they want to build up that line. And this is a great way to do it. Was he the number 1 tackle I had? No, but at the same point, I like the move. And I think it could only help them, especially if you're going to get something out of Breece Hall and whatever offense you're going to be running with Justin Fields. Like, you need to give him some protection. You need to give him time. So this one definitely makes a lot of sense, but it just depends on how they're going to show up and work with, like, him and with the rest of the offensive line.
Right.
Because they have drafted before. You know, it's been very hit or miss. And I mean, it's the Jets. Maybe it's a curse. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
But at the same point, if they can make this happen, this is a smart pick. But it just depends if he can gel with the rest of that offensive line and do what they need to do running the football. Because if they can't, and they're letting Fields get tore apart by, the Bills defense, the Patriots, I'm not worried about Miami. That's a whole different ball of wax right now.
Sure.
I think that they this is probably the best move they could have done, because if they they will probably do something which, this will sound weird to say, but they're going to copy a lot of what Vrabel does with New England.
Probably.
They're really going to build up their offensive lines.
Probably.
So this one makes a lot of sense.
No, I mean, it does too, especially when you look at the Jets last year, gave up a total of 40 sacks last year. That line needed some serious help, so this made all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah.
Next up was the number 9 overall pick with the New Orleans Saints taking...
Oh, no, actually, you missed one. Carolina, number 8.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Carolina was the number 8 overall pick, and they took Titaroa McMillan, the Arizona wide receiver.
I'm not mad about this move,
No.
but I think they could have gone somewhere else with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they could have got a lot more depth at wide receiver than this move right here.
Sure.
I think, especially with certain defensive players on the board still, I think that was their biggest X factor they needed.
Sure.
So this one, I mean, maybe it was what they thought best player available. Maybe they were worried that New Orleans was going to take a run at him.
That could be.
It could be a situation like this. I don't think it's bad if he can pan out like all the hype is surrounding him.
Sure.
He'll be fine.
I think it was a case of they knew they needed a wide receiver, and especially you look at the next couple of picks that are coming up, and those are teams that are certainly can use a wide receiver, especially the next two. You know, I think it was a case of it's not what they wanted to take at that point, but they're kind of reading the room and going, okay, if we don't get this guy now, we're going to lose out, and we might not like what we get later.
Yeah.
Next up was the number 9 overall pick, which the New Orleans Saints took Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle from Texas.
See, Banks was my number 1 tackle that I thought should have gone higher.
Okay.
But I'm okay with this. Like, I'm very okay that he didn't go higher. This is a great spot for him to land.
Yeah.
Especially with the uncertainty of who's going to be a quarterback with the Saints.
No kidding.
Whoever's behind there is going to need protection. Banks will definitely step in and be able to shore up that offensive line. I love this move. I think this is very smart.
No, I do too, especially like you said, you don't know who's going to be starting the regular season for the New Orleans Saints. They've got like 4 dudes listed on their depth chart for quarterbacks, so goodness only knows.
Yeah.
And listen, you can never have enough tackles, especially when you're trying to stop the sacks from coming.
Very true.
Last and certainly not least was the number 10 overall pick, and the Chicago Bears took Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan.
I was shocked this was not Tyler Warren.
You're telling me.
This was a very big surprise. Nothing against Loveland.
Sure.
He's very solid. But if you were saying who is the best tight end on the board, far and away, in my opinion, it was Warren. So I know their new head coach, Ben Johnson, is really trying to make something happen here. They've upgraded a lot on that offensive side of the ball. Loveland will be fine for Caleb Williams. I think that really helps him out a lot. But at the same point, I don't know if they reached here.
Oh, I think they did.
That's where I'm kind of going with. Because, I mean, they still had Cole Kmet. Who's he's serviceable, sure, and this is an upgrade from him. But
sure,
to go at 10, where you do have some more needs that could have been dealt with, that was kind of the big reach, I thought, and especially for taking not the number 1 tight end on the board, I had to sit here and go like,
right,
we'll have to see.
So pulled up the stats, and hell, I'll give you Colston's entire collegiate career for receiving, because it don't even come close to what Tyler Warren did last year. Sorry, I'm looking at it now. It beats it by just a little. So for his entire collegiate career, that was 3 years at Michigan, Colston Loveland had 1,466 yards rushing, and he had 11 touchdowns. Tyler Warren, in just his senior year, 1,233 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. Like, set a team record. I forget what the hell it was, but clearly the number 1 overall tight end to me, and I know you said it as well. And just the thing is Penn State guy, so admittedly there's a little bit of bias there. But having watched a few Michigan games, tight ends never figured that heavily into the game plan. So do we really know what you're going to get out of him when it comes game time?
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. Maybe they can use him effectively, but in the meantime, in between time, I don't know.
Well, I think that whole offense is going to be a different ball of wax this
year.
So we just have to kind of wait to see how they implement their system and see if it works.
Yeah.
And then going over the rest of the draft, I mean, very quickly, is there anybody that really stood out to you as far as teams that really did some solid moves?
Not really. I mean, everyone kind of did fairly well for themselves. I think the one that could be sneaky good that might fly under some radars is the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Arizona Cardinals did very well for themselves. They took the defensive lineman Walter Nolan from Ole Miss with their first pick. Second round, they took the cornerback Will Johnson from Michigan. Third round, they got the edge rusher Jordan Birch from Oregon. Fourth round, they got the linebacker Cody Simon from Ohio State. Round 5, they kept it in Ohio and took the cornerback Denzel Burke from Ohio State. Round 6, they took the inside offensive lineman in Hayden Connor from Texas. And then their last pick in the 7th round, they took the safety Kitten Crawford from Nevada. I mean, listen, Arizona's offense pretty much already set. It's not bad. It's pretty good. But the one big thing they had last year, and the one big issue they had last year, was their defense was just garbage, top to bottom. They addressed it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of their 7 picks were all defensive. Will they all be hits and will they all be difference makers? Maybe not. But for what you're looking at, I think they did pretty well for themselves.
See, for me, I think the New York Giants actually had the best draft of anybody.
I'll agree with that on the first 2 picks, yeah.
I'd say obviously getting Abdul Carter, solid pick at number 3.
Yeah.
Trading back in to get a quarterback, not the one everybody thought, even though I almost was right with my prediction.
Boy,
but
yeah, you were.
But they traded back in to get Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, it worked the first time. Well, it might work the second time.
That's the whole point. Like, they have some potential to make something happen there. He is one that definitely fits more of what Dabble uses with a quarterback as far as a pocket presence, and that's really where he goes by.
Yep.
Albeit, though, they still have not addressed one of their glaring needs per se.
Yeah.
That offensive line is still absolutely bad.
I mean, they took an offensive tackle in the 5th round, Marcus Mbao from Purdue. So, we'll see.
Yeah, but Darius Alexander is a big help, too. And I think one of the biggest sleepers is Scatabo from Arizona State.
Oh, Lord, they got a dog in that guy.
Yeah, I think they really stole some of their... Not saying this is going to push them over Philly, because I think...
4th round is a steal, too.
But that is a steal for them.
Oh, Lord.
I thought that they had a very solid draft. I also thought Pittsburgh did very well.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's the Steelers. So they didn't really bend but break, so to speak.
Yeah.
They kind of kept it very even.
Yeah.
And I thought they were smart about what they did, and especially for the question of the quarterback. They might have a steal with their 6th pick with Will Howard from Ohio State.
National champion Will Howard.
Yeah, so that might be the centerpiece that they're looking for to really shore up a lot of their areas. I mean, I know they got Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. He replaces, obviously, Najee Harris.
Uh-huh.
And then you think about Jack Sawyer and Derek Hammond. Like, they addressed a lot of their defense, too, Yao Black. Like, they have addressed a lot of key points that they needed to. And it goes back to how that AFC North is shaping up.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought they did well, and especially with the quarterback, too, because that is a very Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen-esque physical quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how will that pan out? Well, it depends if you get anything from that offensive line. That's also another crazy factor, too.
Right.
And then before we get into the big story of the weekend, I'm just going to touch upon the Bills.
Yeah.
Because we had a very solid draft.
I would say so, yeah.
I know the big headline that was breaking this week, which the fact that Brandon Beane had to get on a talk show and argue about.
It's a slow news week.
Yeah, but I side with him because we did not need to address a wide receiver position in this draft.
No.
It would have helped, sure, but we signed Shakir long term.
Mm-hmm.
They just signed Palmer from L.A.
Mm-hmm.
So right there's 2 wide receivers long term, along with Coleman, who you drafted last year.
Uh-huh.
I mean, could you have drafted a running back?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to move James Cook, depending on what happens there.
But there was only one running back everyone was talking about,
right,
and that was Genty.
Yeah.
And there was no way Buffalo was going to get him unless they traded up for him.
Right. There was no way they were going to do it. But I thought they played very smart with who they got.
Yeah.
Maxwell Harrison, who we saw congratulate everybody picked before him.
That was awesome.
Yeah, very good character guy in this sense. Really made a big, strong impression. Very happy to be there. I know there's some question of his durability, but I know Brandon Beane did his homework.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the one thing. The Bills have shown time and time again they can never have enough cornerbacks.
God, that's 100% true.
They just need to make sure they can read coverage and be able to stop when schemes are kind of getting thrown off, because otherwise we have headaches that we've had with multiple ones, not just one certain one last year.
And don't listen to the head coach in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah. So Harrison, I think, is going to be fine. I love T.J. Sanders from South Carolina being added in the second round, and Landon Jackson, the edge runner from Arkansas. I think that's solid too.
Yeah.
I thought every move, and Deontay Walker too from the fourth round. From the defensive tackle from Kentucky. I thought they addressed everything they really needed per se. They didn't go crazy, but they drafted overall, because they had a ton of picks.
Yeah, they did.
3 cornerbacks.
Whew.
So what are we worried about right here? And then especially they did draft a wide receiver from Maryland in the 7th, but honestly, I am not fazed by it. It does not bother me. Their offense is fine. They were one of the high-scoring offenses in the league last year. No major personnel changes per se, except Palmer being there, so we'll see what we get out of them.
Yeah.
But I thought for the Bills, they did enough what they needed to do.
Yeah.
But that said, though, we have to get into the.
I gotta get into mine.
Oh, I was gonna say with Patriots. Well, you covered your number one. I completely forgot about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said before, love the Will Campbell pick. The Travian Henderson pick, the second round, did not see that coming. Excited for that. I like the first couple of picks. After that, it's kind of a, we'll see how it ends up. But I like picking up Kyle Williams, the wide receiver. Our history. Usually not good with wide receivers for the Patriots. We'll see how it goes with Williams. I like the pickup of Jared Wilson from Georgia. Georgia offensive linemen, usually dogs, pun intended. So we'll see with that. Craig Woodson, the safety from California. I like that one. You can never have enough help, especially up top. And then you had the defensive lineman, Joshua Farmer from Florida State. Well, like that again. Need some help on the defensive side, and the rest of them, we'll see. You had the edge rusher Braden Swinson from LSU, took the kicker Andres Bareilles from Miami. Hope you like the cold weather, dude. We'll see how it goes. Hey, can never have enough kickers. Took the offensive tackle Marcus Bryant from Missouri in the 7th round. Took the Julian Ashby from Vanderbilt also in round 7, and the Patriots had Mr. Irrelevant. They took the defensive back Kobe Minor from Memphis. The only thing I have to say about that is whatever intern for the Patriots decided to put out that tweet, I get the reference you were making, but yikes.
Yeah, that's not the one you want to make.
That stayed up for way too long.
That's not the one you want to make.
Nope.
You feel free to Google search it.
Uh-huh.
We are not talking about it here.
Uh-huh.
But we have to talk about something I think you and I both don't want to talk about.
The elephant in the room.
But we have to address it. It's arguably the biggest NFL story going on right now.
The most shocking story I've seen in the draft in quite some time.
Yep. Shedeur Sanders, the son of Deion Sanders, quarterback for Colorado this past few seasons, was slated to be a number 1 pick.
Pretty much, well, he was slated to go in the first round by most.
Yeah, that's what I mean, first round pick. And fell to the 5th round.
144 overall to the Cleveland Browns.
So there has been some quote-unquote controversy with this. Our take on this, Pat, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was shocked by it. I was talking with a friend. This past Saturday was the 6-month anniversary of my wedding with my wife. We went out of town to do some shopping out for the day just to get out of town. And normally after the first round, I check out of the draft. I don't, unless there's somebody who should have gone in the first and I want to see where they go. But usually they're gone by the 2nd round, hardly ever the 3rd. But I'm normally checked out, and the only time I'm paying attention is I'm popping on Facebook, seeing who the Patriots took and going, okay, they took this. I'm checked out. But we were driving out of town. I had the draft broadcast going on in my car through Sirius. I had one of the radio broadcasts going on through, I think it was the ESPN broadcast through Sirius. And she's like, oh, why are you listening? Because I'm like, listen, normally I wouldn't, but it's the fact that he's still here that's shocking to me. So I was completely shocked by this because like I said, most of the draft experts I saw had him going somewhere in the first round. It kind of varies which one and where and who you talk to, but almost all of them had him going in the first round. So shocked by it, but once you started to hear some of the stuff that come out, I listen, I'm going to come out right out and say it. It wasn't the owners and the front office staff of 32 teams colluding to make sure and teach them a lesson. I just think it was the simple fact of a lot of mitigating circumstances that had he had the chance to go back and change, he would, and it would have done better because from what we've heard and what we've read, he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and came in and did not do well in several of his interviews. What also didn't help is his father going on and politicking. Well, here's the list of teams he wants to go to, and if you're not one of these teams, don't even bother. So if you're already dealing with that headache and he's not even on your roster yet, why are you even going to want to deal with the guy? So not totally shocked. Hey, good for you. You got picked because it hit round 5. And I'm like, there's a legitimate chance I think he's going to slip through and not get picked by anybody like his brother was. Mm-hmm. That's the thing I think a lot of people get lost on is his brother Shiloh was also available and went undrafted, but got picked up afterwards. I think it was
Tampa.
Yeah, it was Tampa. He got picked up by Tampa Bay. So, I mean, listen, this is the case of, I think it was a humbling moment. I think it was a teaching moment for a lot of these college kids getting ready to come out of the draft in the next couple of years of, listen, you might be good. And you might think you're the next Tom Brady. You're the next Christian McCaffrey. You're the next Calvin Johnson. You're the next J.J. Watt. Like, pick your position and pick one of the greats. But have some humility. Have some humbleness. And because it will affect you. You know, you can go into an interview, think you're the greatest fry cook in all of North America or in all of the world. But if you have a crappy attitude and you're not a team player and you just come off as arrogant, sorry, nobody's going to want to hire you.
I think there's a few factors that lie in here.
Okay.
And I think that we talked about this last week, and we said there was a chance he would fall out of the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And he did.
Yeah.
And we said the Giants would be possibly a team that would sneak back in to go trade up and get
sure.
him. Because the heavy rumor was he was going to go to Pittsburgh.
It also seemed like the Giants thing to do.
Right. Well, the Giants did, but they drafted the...
Right. They took the Jackson
Dart. They took Dart instead from Ole Miss.
Right.
So you have to take a look at the perception is reality portion here. It was heavily mentioned that there was a lot of, friction, if you will, with how he was coming across the teams, along with Dion too, making tweets saying you would only go to certain teams, or they would pull, or they would quote unquote pull what Eli Manning did.
Yep.
Paraphrasing a bit. And then it seemed like it was more about his image than he was interested in playing football. And I go back to where he was in college. In Colorado, when were they national champions?
Never.
Yeah, to make the comparison, if he was really the solid number 1 pick, what did he do in college? And the comparisons that I heard most over the weekend, and I agree with, is he was on the same level as Geno Smith.
Right, and I've got their schedule from this past season up. I'm not going to run through all the results, but I'll just run through the teams they played. North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, UCF, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and they played BYU in the Valero Alamo Bowl at the end of December. Some of those schools, admittedly, on a rare occasion will have a decent season, but are they going to contend for national championships? No. So it's I think, in a way, comparable to the Daniel Jones thing with the Giants a couple of years ago, where Daniel Jones, phenomenal freaking numbers in college, but it's Duke.
Yeah.
Like, who is Duke playing that's in the upper echelon of college football? If it was, say, if Sanders was in, hell, pick an SEC team or any of the Big Ten teams or even some of the Big 12 schools, and he's putting up those numbers, then I'm sitting there going, okay, there's a shot he's got something special there, because we've seen guys before that have had egos and have come off as prima donnas, that teams have been able to put that aside and go, you know what? It's going to be a lot to deal with, but he's worth it. And you had 143 or 144 other teams, pass on him before he was ultimately picked up. I think the other thing too is some of these teams that he was allegedly linked to, where everyone was figuring, oh, he'll go there, oh, he'll go, he could go here, he could go there, we're never actually seriously considering him, because you look at it, one team that got mentioned about 112 times was, the Pittsburgh Steelers, because, the Pittsburgh Steelers have got Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback, and they need a better quarterback. Listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers could have taken him three times before he got picked up. They had the 164th pick in the 5th round, so he was gone by then. They passed on him. They didn't take a quarterback. They took Will Howard in the 6th round, but they passed on him. The Raiders. I mean, listen, the Raiders have taken a quarterback that seemed like a real great player and consensus number 1 overall pick in the name of Jamarcus Russell. How'd that work out for him?
Well, I think we also have to look at what he did there, and then the stuff that we heard coming out on around there with the draft.
Yeah.
And especially the meetings with the Giants.
I'll say he skipped on throwing at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Only had workouts for like 4 or 5 teams privately.
Yeah.
And then there was the story that was coming out from, I believe it was Todd McShay, about he being Shador had a meeting with the Giants, and they were and it wasn't anything special they threw at him. They do this for everybody.
Yep.
They threw an install package at him and like, hey, all right, break this down and go through this. And it fell apart at the get-go, and he got pissy.
Yeah. So when you factor all that in, plus we now live in the day and age of the name, image, and likeness deals.
Yeah.
Where he made, I believe it was $6 million
Something like
at
that.
Colorado.
Something like that, yeah.
So when you have already made NFL money in college,
Yeah.
what's the incentive to take the next step that's serious? Because the perception is he was not doing that.
No.
And by the way he was coming across the teams, that he only met with the 4 that were in the top 4 picks, I believe.
Right. I think so, yeah.
Then if that is the alleged truth, then that is going to rub teams the wrong way. And if you think the GMs don't talk to everybody, the easiest comparison this is, if you've ever seen the movie Draft Day, this is Bo Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is the ego and the perception is outshining whatever he did on the field.
Right, and these interviews matter. I mean, Brandon Beane, the general manager from the Buffalo Bills, was on the Pat McAfee show today and was telling the story of how when he was in Carolina, they had an interview with a quarterback coming out of college. The quarterback the night before met up with a receiver he knew. They didn't play together, but they knew each other. And the receiver was leaving the next morning. The quarterback had a meeting with Beane and Carolina the next morning. They couldn't find the quarterback for 3 hours. And at that point, they just sent him home and they took him off their draft board because, well, he ain't worth our time.
Mm-hmm.
These interviews matter.
Oh, exactly. Well, that's the whole thing. It's as much as we like to say we enjoy sports, it is a business.
Yeah.
And you're not going to invest millions of dollars into somebody that can't handle the pressure nor give you 100% of what they have.
Is it weird when we see these interviews? I think it was it was Keon Coleman with the Buffalo Bills, where they put out the video of their interview with him. And they're like, "Oh, do you have any hobbies?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I like to golf." And there's the whole, I'm Tiger wish he could. I'm not Tiger Woods. Does it seem weird on the surface for, these front office guys to be asking these players what they do for a hobby or in their free time? Yeah, it comes off a little weird. But when you're investing multi-million dollars into these players, you want to know what they like to do, because I don't think you want to spend, especially if it's down the road, 10, 15, 20 million dollars into a guy if he's got a hobby of, oh, you know what, I like to go snowmobiling. And all of a sudden, hey, oops, we're out of our starting offensive lineman for, a third of the last third of the season. We're in the playoff hunt because he decided to go snowmobiling and flipped his snowmobile. It's a business. They want to know about these guys.
Well, that's the whole thing. Then I think they did their due diligence and searched it. And plus, I don't think they wanted the headache of Dion there.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that he made public comments that were making sound bites really dampered any excitement to bring Shador on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his play was not that great in college, in my opinion.
The numbers are good, but again,
good, but not great.
They're good. But again, I read off the list of who they played last year. None of them are exactly striking fear.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying here. They didn't strike fear into anybody. They did what they needed to do, which, it made him get on somebody's radar.
Sure.
But when you start doing the deep dive into the character issues, so to speak, and not saying he's been in any trouble in that.
Right.
But is he going to be a distraction in your locker room? Is
100%.
he going to be one that's making sound clips that is going to be bulletin board material for your opposing teams? Is he going to be there more focused on what he's doing outside of the game instead of what he's doing in the locker room? Those are all the factors that ultimately 31 teams decided he was more focused on that than playing football.
I'll say the video came out of him working out with Cam Ward, and he told Cam Ward, "Hey, let's go make a track together. Let's go record a song together." And Cam Ward looked at him and went, "I play football."
Yeah. Well,
come on, it'd be fire. It'd go huge. I play football.
Yeah. Well, take a look at what he was doing draft night.
Yeah.
He made his own draft party room and was performing.
Yeah.
And there were also casino games. So there is a lot of distractions going on there that perception, me watching at home, is going, he doesn't care about where he winds up. He's just more interested in what he's doing after this.
Well, and I'm sorry, is it a flex to do that, and does it look cool for your friends? Sure. But it comes off to me as you're real cocky and entitled by just even having that setup. Now, if you want to sit in your home and sit in your living room like a bunch of other players did, sure. But I sat there, I saw the whole setup in the backyard, and I'll be honest, I rolled my eyes a little bit.
Well, that's the whole thing. If you're trying to impress a team to hire you, what kind of message is that sending?
Yeah.
It's just the optic test, folks. And there's one thing you can be like the Johnny Manziels or Baker Mayfields and be confident and such. But at the same time, you also have to kind of show that same respect to the league. And by what we're seeing and hearing coming out of it, it was clearly not the case.
Yeah.
So now what he has to look forward to is he is now a part of a 5-depth quarterback room
Lord have mercy.
for the Browns. Granted, Deshaun Watson is out for majority of the year. They have Kenny Pickett, who I don't think is going to be any threat to him per se. Joe Flacco, who is a fan favorite there. And then the
Dylan Gabriel, who they took in the 3rd round.
Right. So the question now becomes, is Shedeur going to care enough to win this position outright? That will be the ultimate X factor. If he does, he's going to prove a lot of people wrong, and he'll make a ton of money either with the Browns or somewhere else. If he fails out and can't get on the radar here, he has justified what 31 other teams felt. And for all the quote-unquote controversy and collusion surrounding this,
Stop.
you can stop right now, because this will be the ultimate test of who is right. And he needs to ball out and get focused on that, and then he goes from there.
If there really was colluding, he'd have gone undrafted the whole time.
Sure.
That would have sent the ultimate message.
And I'm sure teams were looking at it in the 5th round saying he's best player available,
Right.
which makes sense. So you can't say any collusion or any nonsense conspiracy theory about this. I just think the teams were not going to be willing to pay him 1st-round money if he's going to be a 4th-round headache.
Right. And like I said, I think ultimately everyone was running with a list of, here are the X number of teams it's possible he gets drafted by. And sure, that could have been possible. But I think that list drastically shrunk by the interviews and the fiasco that reportedly was. And then ultimately teams looking at what they had and looking at what was there and going, you know what? Yeah, we need a quarterback for the future. Like, we're good for right now. But for the future, we need something, but we can wait a year.
Yeah. So that'll be the storyline heading into preseason of where that goes with Cleveland. As for the other teams, I really think the ones that did well, they'll have some headlines of their own to make. The ones that did not draft as well and reach.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati has to be up there. Miami is up there as well. They'll have a lot more questions to focus on going into the season, especially Miami. And I'm not saying this with my normal bias. There's a lot of hearsay, I guess I would say, coming out, and rumor. So of trouble down there. So if they can pull it together and make it to the playoffs, it's a bonus. If not, well, the draft will have to be in their favor for next season. That said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. We gave you a lot to decipher over the NFL draft. Now we want to hear your takes. Who won the draft? How did your team do? And what's your take on the Shedeur Sanders issue? Where do you stand on this? You heard our takes. Now we want to hear yours. But first, we're going to get a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale Am I is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Time to talk some NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
So there's some storylines going on with the first round matchups. One, if you are in the state of Florida, it's not a really good story. If you're another city in Florida, it's a somewhat hopeful story.
Yeah.
But let us break it down, Pat. Where do you want to kick off?
So just real quick, we'll mention who won the play-in tournament because we broke it down, but we haven't talked about it since it went through. You had the Golden State Warriors beat the Memphis Grizzlies to advance into the playoffs, and then out of the other three teams there between the Kings, the Mavericks, and the Grizzlies. You had the Memphis Grizzlies emerge to win the other spot for the Western Conference. Out in the East, you had the Orlando Magic beat the Atlanta Hawks, much to your pleasure. And out of the remaining other three teams between the Heat, Hawks, and Bulls, you had the Miami Heat beat the Atlanta Hawks to emerge victorious and be the other team in the Eastern Conference. So I know you're super disappointed. Trae Young sitting at home.
I was shedding a tear. Oh, wait, that's an eyelash. Never mind.
But yeah, getting into the Western Conference, you had, I think everybody was not surprised by this. The Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Memphis Grizzlies 4-0.
Oklahoma City is the best team in the Western Conference. Might be the best team in all of basketball. So this was no shock. I thought that this went pretty much the way I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any storylines. I know that their opponents were saying differently, but let's face it.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City is on a mission right now. We talked about it previously. They know the window is closing on their young team because obviously when contracts start running up, they're going to have to do some shuffling around. So they need to kind of figure out what they're going to do. And for Memphis is kind of a mess right now.
Which is kind of surprising given how promising they looked a couple of years ago.
Right. But it's just a fall from grace.
Yeah.
Obviously, certain factors have played into this. but to hear them saying, well, if this went differently, we would be up 2-2 or whatever the case
Would
is.
it have?
I don't think so. I think that SGA and company are just imposing their will, and they're just playing better basketball than you guys are. So there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is.
Agreed, 100%. Then you've got the Denver Nuggets. We're taking on the LA Clippers, where this series is currently tied 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tonight as we record, scheduled for 10 o'clock Eastern on TNT and Max.
This had one of the wildest finishes I have ever seen in a game because the Clippers should be up 3-1.
Yep.
Should be.
Yep.
And they put on one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in a quarter with Game 4. The Clippers came back and they were down. They put up 34 to 16 points on Denver. They had the lead going into the final moments, or they tied it up rather. They let it get tied up.
Yeah.
And Jokic throws up a prayer. And the one thing that the Clippers don't do, and for the life of me, I can't understand why.
Mental lapse.
It has to be. They don't box out.
Nope.
Well, one, Aaron Gordon, but two, they did not do any great defense.
There was a couple guys who fought their way through.
Yeah. Gordon sees the ball coming up short and immediately jumps up to dunk it.
Slam dunk champion, mind you.
And it is one of those bang plays that really, a fraction of a second, we're talking 3-1.
Yeah.
But it should never have been that close, especially with how the Clippers came back.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate thing. But Jokic hasn't looked great.
No, looked very not superhuman, but more human.
Yeah, granted, he's played great the last game. Like I said,
Yeah.
Up. But now going into the pivotal Game 5, this is a must-win for the Clippers. More so than the Nuggets. The Nuggets have not looked great. Like I say, they're down 3-1, but they scrapped to like I say, take this away from being 3-1 rather, and now it's tied up. A lot of momentum's in their favor. So this is going to be, if the Clippers go down 3-2 tonight,
right,
they're not coming back to win this. They're not. I would like to see them win just to see a kind of a switch up of things, but I just think Denver's too good.
Currently, the line is the Clippers by 1.5.
That's fair. After last game, I fully believe it.
Yeah.
But we'll have to wait to see because, like I say, Denver is turning on at the right time. Albeit, though, the Clippers want to scrap with them. So, but like I say, it's gonna be tough to beat them at Denver. That's the only thing. I just don't see that happening.
Then you've got the LA Lakers, who are currently down to the Minnesota Timberwolves 3-1.
Well, this one is the Anthony Edwards show.
No kidding. Good Lord.
And I think that. And we have to be a little guilty of this, too. We wrote off the Timberwolves because LeBron and Luka has been the talk of the NBA going into the playoffs.
Sure.
One of the most egregious trades in NBA history, maybe all sports.
Luka broke his phone over that trade.
Yeah, and I don't blame him.
No.
they had all the momentum going in here, and this is a situation that the Timberwolves have really had that chip on the shoulder, and especially Anthony Edwards, who they have a very solid team. Like maybe we don't talk about them enough because they're on the West Coast, or the Western Conference, I should say. But those
games are on late over here.
Yeah, they have a very solid squad, and to see what they have to work with is really impressive. To see that they're just going to the Lakers and punching them right in the mouth, and they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting great scoring out of Luka and LeBron. I mean, Luka's averaging just over 30 a game, and then LeBron's averaging just over 26 a game. But after that, it's kind of a fall off. I mean, you got Austin Reeves, 17.3. Hachimura averaging 12.8, and then it's Dorian Finney-Smith with 6 a game, Gabe Vincent with 3.5 a game, Dalton Connect with 2.5 a game. So, I mean, listen, it's great you got the 17, over 17 and almost 13, but step it up, guys.
Well, that's the problem that they have is after Luka and LeBron, there was no other option.
Yeah.
That's why it was wild to see Luka go there, and they actually lucked in the playoffs as they did. Because the Lakers really don't have any other options other than those two. So if they have a bad night, it's done.
Yep.
And unfortunately for them, Minnesota has a team. Anthony Edwards has been playing lights out. Rudy Gobert he'll give you defense. He's not going to give you a lot on offense. Julius Randle. Listen,
the ageless wonder.
He has some motivation now. Obviously, not being with New York, he's shown up. Jaden McDaniels, like you're seeing a lot of these guys go, and of course I have to shout out Dante DiVincenzo.
Of course.
But you're seeing this team really play solid, and that's the key factor in all of this. That when you're seeing this team basketball, and especially with Edwards, who's, like I say, so aggressive about making this happen, this is where you're seeing the teams really get tested and really show up, and and especially to see Edwards take over a game, dropping 43 the last game. You know, when you get moments like this, and especially they understand the tempo of the room, especially the Lakers were giving them all they could handle. It wasn't like they weren't doing anything. But when you see them really kind of going lights out about this, and he's getting some help too, because like I say, Randall's finding the resurgence he needs, dropping 25 in that game. The Lakers just don't have enough firepower to keep up with him, and it's showing. And I think that when we get to Game 5, the Lakers, obviously it's 3-1. They're on their heels. I don't see them winning 3 in a row.
Yeah, Game 5 scheduled for Wednesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern on TNT, True TV, and Max, where currently the line is Lakers by 5.5.
I mean, maybe they get some hometown luck.
That in the game is in Los Angeles. So.
Right, but other than that, I just don't see it doing. I think, if anything, Anthony Edwards is just going to go crazy.
Probably.
In that game. And
primetime game. They're the only game on in town. Yeah.
And especially him and Randall have been working well together. So, you know what? You can't go wrong with that. I don't doubt Dante stepping up and stealing some spotlight.
Probably.
I mean, I don't think you're going to get a lot out of Mike Conley. I'm going to say that right now. But I think they have enough firepower they can definitely take it. And I don't think Luka, I mean, he's doing everything he can. But
right. He's only one dude.
Right, but I think between him and LeBron, I mean, there's no real other option. I know Hachimura played well, but I don't think he's going to be enough to keep up with.
No. Then you got the last matchup currently still going in the Western Conference, where you've got the Houston Rockets currently down 3-1 to the 7th-seeded Golden State Warriors.
Talk about the fountain of youth.
Oh, baby.
Talk about the fountain of youth. This team is not supposed to be here, let alone they're making a run.
Although you look at the way the stats are breaking down for the Houston Rockets, it's not a total surprise. The leading scorer for the Houston Rockets right now is Alperen Sengun, 22.3 points a game. Jalen Green, 15.5. Fred VanVleet, 14.8. Dylan Brooks, 12.8. Amen Thompson, 11.8. It's a bit of a fall off there.
Well, especially for being the second seed. This is a problem.
You want to talk about a cold streak at the absolute worst possible time if you're a Rockets fan?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, we're right here. So now the question is, do they have enough in the tank to come back? And I'm going to say no.
No. What is this? Game 5, I think is what this is scheduled again tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern in Houston, TNT, True TV, and Max. Current line is Houston by 4.5.
Well, they're home. Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of swinging that. But to see what they've done, I mean, this has been just literally all Golden State. I mean, granted, the last game made some headlines. did what it needed to do because the Rockets did fight them. And it's the first game, I think, in the series that they've done it. And granted, this could have gone differently, but Jimmy Butler coming back, that is a big X factor for this team, and especially playoff Jimmy is a whole different ball game.
Oh, baby.
So the fact that we're seeing Golden State actually turn it up now, they're going to easily take the series.
Probably.
And then this is where it gets dicey because then who do they face? Minnesota?
It'd be Minnesota. It'd be likely be Minnesota. I mean, the Warriors could give them a fight. I can see that going the full distance.
Yeah. That's going to be a really, really interesting series.
There's a possibility the Warriors could make the finals. Conference finals, I should say.
Yeah, I'd say conference. I mean, they'll get there, but I honestly don't think any team is going to beat Oklahoma City in
Probably
that
not.
West. I
Probably
still don't after seeing this first round. Then we go to the other side.
Then you get to the East, where you had the Cleveland Cavaliers sweep the Miami Heat 4-0, so they're on to the conference semifinals. I cannot remember in recent memory a more embarrassing series in the NBA, especially in the first round. You had the Cavaliers win Game 1 121-100. Yeah, okay. Game 2, they won 121-112. Okay. Here's the embarrassing part. So both of these next two games were in Miami. Cleveland won Game 3 124-87. And then last night, they beat them 138-83. Good Lord.
Well, the easiest way to describe this is
Miami quit?
they quit. You can't spin it any other way. They quit. This team packed up shop and said, we're going to the offseason. And they got punched in the mouth in Cleveland.
Yep.
Like you alluded to.
Yep.
121. So first game, 20-point loss.
Yep.
Second game, 9-point loss.
Yep. Which is, okay.
Okay, understandable. Cleveland's number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But to get smoked
By like 30-something.
on your home court, and then you take a look at what that score was at halftime, 40-point deficit at halftime.
Yeah.
They quit. So the only thing for certain, which mark the tape now, this team is getting dismantled.
Yeah.
There is no chance Pat Riley is going to have this roster back next season.
Oh, God, no. I mean, you look at just some of the stats and just the points per game. Tyler Hero was the leading scorer for the team with 17.8 points a game. Bam Adebayo was next with 17.5. Davion Mitchell was after that with 15. And then you had Andrew Wiggins with 11.5.
Yeah.
Gee, mini Christmas.
It's a wrap. I mean, they're going to absolutely tear this team apart.
As he should.
Well, yeah, this is embarrassing.
But you know what's entirely possible could happen because it's Riley, and he never does anything conventionally. He's going to say, oh, well, you know what? We like our core, so we're not going to change too much.
No, he won't. No. The fact they quit.
Well, and they got blown. If you not want to do math, they got blown out by 55 last night.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, that's just my opinion. They quit.
It really says something when Ernie Johnson gets on the halftime show. This wasn't, inside the NBA. This wasn't after all the games were over. This was at halftime of the Cavs Heat game and said, quote, "This is the most embarrassing game I've ever watched."
Yeah.
And the dude's been broadcasting for how long?
Exactly. That's the whole problem. There was no excuse for this game.
No.
None. And the fact that you had 2 back-to-back nights like this. Listen, I grant you, Cleveland's playing lights out, but still,
Sure.
there's no heart. There was no nothing. This was literally like a varsity team walking into a middle school
Pretty much.
and just going to town.
It was like the Yankees from the 20s getting there and playing a little league team.
Yeah, this was just them dominating on every single aspect of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the points per game. Darius Garland in 2 games. He didn't play all 4. He played 2 games, averaged 24 points a game. Donovan Mitchell, 23.8. Evan Mobley, 16.3. Ty Jerome, same thing. Jared Allen, 14.3. DeAndre Hunter, 13. Max Struss, 11. How many guys did I have to read down before I got to single digits? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They had 7 players average double figures.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So Miami, like I say, good luck trying to keep this team together.
Yeah.
Pat Riley is going to make some heads roll.
Oof.
This is going to go Game of Thrones style.
Yeah.
And for Cleveland, they move on dominantly to the next round, which this one, if it wasn't for injuries, this would be a whole different ballgame. But Indiana is on the verge of punching their ticket to the next round. The Milwaukee Bucks have been decimated. Obviously, Damian Lillard being out.
Doesn't help.
No, this was definitely not helping in any way.
Yeah. So Indiana currently up 3-0. Some of the standouts for the Indiana Pacers. Pascal Siakam, 22.3. Good Lord. Miles Turner, 15.8. Tyrese Halliburton, 15.5. You got 15 from Andrew Nembhard. You got 13.8 from Aaron Nesmith. Benedict Mathurin, 12 points a game. And then you got the Milwaukee Bucks, which I'll give Giannis credit. Doing everything he can. He's averaging almost 34 points a game. But then it's a steep fall off because you got Gary Trent Jr., 15.3, Bobby Portis with 14, Kevin Porter Jr. with 11.3, and then they get in the single digits.
Well, this is a big problem that Milwaukee's had all season.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously making the move to get Damian Lillard was supposed to put him over the top.
Yep.
Did not happen.
Has not happened.
No. So the question mark that they're going to have to deal with in the offseason, because they're not coming back to win 3 on the Pacers. It's just not happening.
God, no. What is this? Game 4, I believe.
Game 5.
Game 5 is tonight as we record. It's in Indiana, mind you, 6 o'clock on NBA TV. Line is currently, Indiana by 8.5.
I believe it.
I had to double check, make sure that wasn't a 6.
I believe it. I just think that Milwaukee's just going to go through the motions on this. The only question mark I have is Giannis staying put?
Well, I know a lot of people were penciling him into Miami. That might not be the case now.
I don't think he wants to go to Miami. I don't think he wants to go to Miami after seeing that.
No.
He's going to create one of the biggest question marks going for the offseason.
Yeah.
Now, depending on how another series plays out, they could make a move there. But I'm going to say this. I think for right now, depending on how bad tonight goes, as we record, if it's another 20-point loss, he's good as gone.
Part of me wishes I had NBA TV on my TV capabilities, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm going to twist the knife in you. We're supposed to do the next, but I know you want to talk to them. I'm going to make it wait. We're going to talk the Celtics and Magic series, which currently has Boston leading that series 3-1.
Well, Boston might win this series, but they're coming out worse for wear.
Yeah.
This has been a very physical series. The Magic has given them all they can.
Stole the one game. What was it? They stole
Game 3.
Game 3, yeah. 95-93.
But there's been a lot of chippiness, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
A lot of very questionable fouls.
Noted rivals, Orlando and Boston.
Yeah.
Storied history.
Did not have this on my bingo card, but here we are.
No.
So this one should be a lock for the Celtics to move on. But this is going to be a very tough challenge for them with the injuries mounting. And the only thing Orlando can do is say they had a moral victory over them.
I mean, listen, if you're the Boston Celtics, there's 2 guys you got to focus on, and then it gets real easy.
Yeah.
Focus on Banchero, who's averaging 32 a game. Focus on Franz Wagner, who's averaging 26 a game. Because after that, Wendell Carter Jr. is their next highest scorer with 9.8 points per game.
Well, I mean, the one thing that they do well is Boston plays defense and they analyze about who they need to take out and be done. So, like I say, that's not super wild to me, but it's just a matter of Orlando is on the way up. They're just not there.
They're just young. They're young, and that one game they got lucky and they caught Boston.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you look at Boston, Tatum's averaging 30, Brown's averaging 23, Derek White's averaging just over 20. The unicorn Porzingis is averaging just about 13. And then you've got Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, of all people, is averaging 10 points.
Yeah. So the fact that Boston's rolling, that's not a real big surprise. But,
No.
But like I said, they're going worse for wear into the next round.
And then we get to the last one, which is the one I know you've been waiting, you have been waiting the most to talk about. It is the New York Knicks, who are currently up 3-1 over the Detroit Pistons.
Well, this has been a closer series per se than I like. Detroit is not a joke.
No, they're not.
They have played as physical of a style as they can against the Knicks.
A little old school.
The Knicks' problem is they start out the first halves of each game they've been in too slow. And they just did not have enough in the tank to come back in game 2. Otherwise, this would have been a sweep. And I think if they're going to make any rounds against Boston, which has been a nemesis for them this entire season, they're going to need a lot of luck.
Yeah.
But if the Knicks can win tonight as we record, and they're 5.5 favorites, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They need to come out early.
Yeah.
They cannot rely on Brunson and company to bail them out late. They don't have the deepest of benches
No.
anymore.
No.
And granted, we got lucky with a very questionable no call at the end of Game 4, but it is what it is.
Didn't the refs even admit later that they missed that
Oh,
call?
yeah, they missed it.
Okay.
No, I'll admit,
I thought I saw that, but Sunday was a very busy day.
no, they completely missed it. It should have been called. I'll be the first one to tell you it should have been called.
Okay.
But it wasn't. Knicks took advantage. Drive home safe. That is the only thing. That's the only thing you could say about that moment.
Right.
It was like you can't put yourself in a position to come down to that, and the Knicks did, and they've been doing too much of that. Because if you get into this habit and you try doing this against a Boston,
Right.
you're going to get swept. There is a chance Boston might sweep them regardless.
Yeah, there's a good shot. If Boston fires off on all cylinders, there's a real good chance.
Boston has been putting up video game numbers against them, and especially
NBA 2K on easy mode.
yeah, especially shooting percentage.
Yeah.
It's insane. So for the Knicks, they don't have that grittiness that they used to have with Randall and DiVincenzo there. Mm-hmm. I think, though, if they were there, I don't know how that still would mesh because I don't think that Brunson could play with Randall. I don't.
Probably not.
I just think the styles aren't there. Cat's a way better fit, but Cat needs to get physical on this, and they need to jump out early. They had better come out with like a 15-2 run.
Yeah.
Early in this half and just stay on it.
Set up the lead early. If the Pistons start to make a comeback, well, that gives you enough of a cushion that you're not playing catch up for however many quarters.
Yeah, because that's going to be the big problem that they have. And if they can wind up pulling it off, it's a great win because if they get to the second round, they can. If they get swept for whatever reason, and they still can, this is where I think Giannis winds up. I think
Could be.
I think depending on two factors. One, if they get swept by Detroit here, that's a whole different ballgame.
Sure.
But I'm going to just play devil's advocate. I think the Knicks win tonight. I think at home, this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Garden will be rocking. Cy Talk will be amazing watching after.
Yeah.
If they get blown out a la a la Miami and the Cavaliers, if they are the Miami of that equation, they're going to make some drastic moves.
Oh, absolutely.
Thibodeau could be gone.
Yeah.
They could make a run for Giannis,
They'll try.
which I think the enticing thing about this team is they're on the verge. They're just missing one piece. They play a lot of finesse. They don't have a physical presence. If they could get somebody in there that plays a little more offensively than Mitchell Robinson, they'd be okay. But they need somebody in there. Like a Bam Adebayo, that would probably be a solid fit for him.
Yeah.
But I think if you put Giannis there, especially a superstar that knows the legacy factor, that could be huge. I don't want Kevin Durant back.
Right.
I know there's been some talk there.
Oh, Lord. At this point, no.
Well, that's going to be the problem. That I fear, depending on how this goes, and I'm glad it got to 3-1 because if it went to 2-2, I wasn't liking our chances.
Right.
They were going to make a drastic move. And I know Durant, I guess, has put out the feelers about coming but there. And I
you
guess
had your opportunity. You said no.
Exactly. You and Kyrie decided to leave. And don't you regret not coming to the Knicks, if I can paraphrase that one gentleman on Side Talk? But that's the problem that they're going to have to deal with. But I think for the short term, they win tonight. Garden will be rocking.
Yeah.
It'll be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, I'm just looking up some contracts that would work in the Knicks' favor because I do think they're going to make the offer. They are going to try. The thing they can pitch him is you've got Brunson locked up for a good number of years, and then you've also got Karl Anthony Towns, who will not be. He's got a player option in the 2027-2028 year. Odds are he'll pick that up.
Yeah, they'll pick it up.
But he's not an unrestricted free agent until the 2028-2029 season.
Yeah, they've locked up a lot of their guys.
So he's locked up for a while, and then Brunson's not a free agent until 2029-2030.
But and I think if you can add another superstar in that level,
Sure.
not Bridges, not Hart, but you need somebody that can take the pressure off Brunson.
Yeah.
If you can do that, because Brunson's getting double teamed too much, then he needs more help. If you can get a serious third option in there, that'll clear up a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But it just depends on who they can get. So we'll have to see. I mean, am I optimistic? Yeah. Is there a possibility they could somehow take advantage of Boston, maybe looking ahead of them? Sure. But the road to the finals is definitely going to be a tough one for them. But
Yeah.
if they can finish off tonight, it's a moral victory. We got to the second round, and then the offseason, we'll have to see if and when that comes, because you never know. It's Knicks forever. What can we say? That all said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. We gave you a lot to discuss here with the NBA. How's your team doing? Where do you see everybody matching up? I'm still saying it's Oklahoma City and Cleveland in the match, or Boston rather. And I'm saying a matchup I don't know if anybody's ready for, but that could still happen. A lot of fun basketball to be had. So hit us up. Let us know your picks. We're going to get our final breakout. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna go.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about, first of which obviously being the local minute, and we're going to start with the Binghamton Black Bears because they are in the midst of the 2025 Commissioners Cup playoffs.
Let's go.
Looking at they were in the semifinal series most recently, and I got to give Port Huron credit. Took them the distance, took them the full 3 games. They had the game on Friday up in Port Huron where they lost by the final score of 3-0. Came back home on Saturday, won that game by the final score of 4-0. So, and then game 3 on Sunday, won by the final score of 6-0. So, that begs the question, who will they be facing in the finals for the Commissioners Cup? Well, it's a repeat of last year. Let's run it back and see how things go because they're facing the Carolina Thunderbirds. Carolina swept their first game in their series in the quarterfinals, 2-0. And then in the semifinals, much like Binghamton, went the full distance, winning that game series by this final game score of 2-1. So this series, not a best of 3, best of 5. So first game is scheduled for Friday, May 2nd at 7:35 p.m. Eastern. This will be in Carolina at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds Arena. Game 2 is on Saturday, May 3rd at 6:05 p.m. Eastern. That is also in Carolina. Game 3 is Friday, May 9th at 7 o'clock Eastern here back home in Binghamton. Then you've got Game 4. This would be, if necessary by this point, would be Saturday, May 10th, 7 o'clock Eastern in Binghamton. And then Game 5, again, if necessary, would be Sunday, May 11th at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern here in Binghamton. So for more tickets, because goodness knows they're going to go quick.
It's going to be a hot ticket.
Yeah, it is. All that information, all that good stuff, BinghamtonBlackBears.com. And we got to talk a little bit about minor league baseball because minor league baseball season in full effect. Looking at the standings for the Eastern League in AA, our Binghamton Rebel Ponies second place. Portland, the Boston affiliate, is ahead of them with a record of 11-6. Binghamton second place with a record of 12-8. Tied with them are the Hartford Yard Goats. They're the Colorado affiliate with the same record. Somerset Patriots coming up next with the record of 9-12. They are the Yankees affiliate. The New Hampshire Fisher Cats, who are the Toronto Blue Jays affiliate, second to last with a record of 8-11. And then you've got the Reading Fightin' Phils, who, if you couldn't tell by the name, Phillies affiliate, coming up in last place in the division with a record of 5-14. So looking at the schedule from this past week for the Rumble Ponies, they had a home series where they opened up on Tuesday with a win of 6-2, won on Wednesday 3-0, won the doubleheader on Thursday. First game 5-0, second game 4-1. Lost on Friday by the final score of 5-0. Lost on Saturday 1-0, and won on Sunday by the final score of 2-1. On the road this upcoming week, they have a game on Tuesday. They're in Erie. They got a game on Tuesday, 6:05 p.m. Eastern. Game on Wednesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern. Thursday is at 6:05 p.m. Eastern. Friday is at 6:05 p.m. Eastern. And then Saturday and Sunday are both at 1:35 p.m. Eastern. Don't have to wait long for them to return home, though. They do return home on Tuesday, May 6th, to play the Reading Fightin' Phils. So for more tickets, information, all that good stuff, bingrp.com. Now you got to talk a little bit of NFL because there was a documentary that dropped today from the folks over at Netflix. If you haven't seen this documentary series, some are good. I know the Johnny Manziel one was good. I know they did one on the Florida Gators, which was so-so. But they did one on the Malice at the Palace, which was not good. I mean, when you're interviewing primarily Indiana players and none of the guys from Detroit really get any shine for most of it. Not that good.
Yeah.
But they did release a new one, which is coming on May 20th over to Netflix. And this is Untold, The Fall of Brett Favre. So the description on the YouTube trailer for this does read, quote, "This eye-opening documentary delves into Brett Favre's controversial career, the dark side of sports stardom, and the scandals that marred his legacy," close quote. So trailer's about a minute and a half long. Does talk about his rise. It does look like we're going to get into his rise to stardom, his rise with the Green Bay Packers. They're not shying away, folks. They're talking about the New York Jets years.
Yep.
They're talking about the scandal that led to his ultimate departure from the New York Jets. Probably won't focus all that much on Minnesota because, hey, not much happened there. But then it does get into more recent history, especially the stuff that happened in Missouri with certain funds that were supposed to be appropriated for one thing and then weren't. So, yeah, looks like it's going to cover all bases, so to speak. And I know I'll be watching on May 20th because, like I said, the Untold stuff, hit or miss, but this one looks like it's going to be real good.
Yeah, this one's got some potential to make some noise. I will definitely say that. I'm definitely watching with you.
Yeah.
So for my one base, I mean, wrestling was kind of quiet this week.
Yeah.
So a lot of fallout from WrestleMania still is taking place. And obviously, TNA Rebellion went down this past Sunday. You can hear about both on Wrestling Night Live this week. I know Rich and Sammy are going to be talking about it. And really kind of like I don't want to say a lull right now, but next week we'll be going into WWE Backlash.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants any part of Free Comic Book Day or May the 4th be with
May
you.
the 4th.
But there is one organization that does want a piece, and that is happening May the 3rd on Free Comic Book Day. That's UFC Fight Night is taking place in Des Moines, Iowa. So the main event is Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo.
Oh,
so
all right.
that's going to be a solid bantamweight bout.
Good match.
Bo Nickel, the fast-rising star,
Yeah.
is going to be taking on Renier de Rider in a middleweight bout. And then there is a couple names that are returning for a bit.
Yeah.
Jeremy Stevens, who I believe last I saw was bare-knuckle fighting.
Probably.
But I know he's from Iowa, so this makes sense for him to come back. He's in a lightweight bout against Mason Jones. And then on the prelims, one Misha Tate is returning, taking on Yana Santos.
Jeremy Stevens most recently looks like he was in the PFL.
Okay. See, I can't tell.
Last UFC fight was Matsu Gamrot at a UFC on ESPN card in 2021.
Yeah,
So it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, like I said, since he's been there. Obviously, I know a lot of fans remember him from being a part of the Conor McGregor press conference when he said, who the
bleep is that guy?
Yep. So I remember him. He has very heavy hands. He throws.
Great press conference if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, definitely making a lot of noise there. And then the only other one that really was making some noise is it was announced that one Dustin Poirier is announcing his final bout.
Yep.
Is going to be taking place on UFC 318 against Max Holloway in a BMF title bout. So that's going to be July 19th, which Poirier record 30-9. He's 2-0 against Holloway. So you know they're going to go swinging for the fences. It's going to be absolutely crazy to see.
Third time they've met.
Yeah. So it is going to be a wild scenario.
Ken's favorite belt is on the line.
Well, you know, it would be if they did what they believed. They talked on the Ariel Helwani show, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe this was here. If I was wrong, hit me up on the hashtag and let me know. Poirier pitched a one-night, 4-man BMF title tournament, like old school UFC style. Him, Holloway, Justin Gaethje, and Dan Hooker.
I mean, take my money.
Yeah. And Dana White, I believe, said it would never get sanctioned anywhere for trying to do it, even though
Clearly he didn't try hard enough because I can think of a few places that would.
Yeah, I'm just going, this would have been absolutely bananas to see. And this would, see, if they did that for the title, I'd be like, okay. I would be okay with that.
I would too.
But they're not doing that for it. But he did say he's trying to get Lil Wayne to sing him out to his last fight. He'd switch up from James Brown, which, I mean, the James Brown is iconic with him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if I want to see this, but I also want to see him get his flowers too, because Poirier has been putting on amazing fights his entire career. To see him go out at this stage, I mean, he's going out early on his own terms. But listen, at this stage, he's not going to be getting near a title shot anytime soon. He's fought for the belt, came up short a couple times, but he's also ran into absolute bulldozers in that division, so it's nothing to sneeze at. So that'll be something to keep an eye on in July when he goes there, because like I say, they'll put on some fireworks. I would not suspect any takedowns happening in that one.
No.
It might just be him and Max standing there boxing for 5 rounds, and I'm all here for that. That said, for anything else that is sports, you can find it if we're talking about it on odphpodcast.com. That's it for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Ooh, talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.